So we're live. Okay. So everyone, welcome to today's Lead 360 Her Leadercast. My name is Dorinda Walker, and I am head of programming for Lead 360 and the host of this Leadercast series designed specifically for Black women in leadership. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, who may not be familiar with Lead 360, we are a professional development organization dedicated to the advancement of Black middle managers and senior leaders. In the words of our founder and CEO, Dr. Eric Walton, we believe that Black leaders matter. August is National Black Business Month, and we are dedicating our programming this month to feature women who are winning as entrepreneurs and small business owners. Black women are starting businesses faster than any other ethnic group. Their entrepreneurial ventures are concentrated in three sectors: service businesses like hair and nail salons, healthcare and social assistance, and professional and technical services like lawyers and accountants. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with three dynamic women who have not only blazed trails in building their own successful businesses, they've dedicated their careers to helping others succeed in business. Let's welcome Kamika Smith, founder of the Boss Network and Boss on Campus, Shirley Ann Robertson, partner at Robertson and Robertson Financial Services, and Nicole Roberts Jones, founder and CEO of NRJ Enterprises. Welcome, ladies. I'm thrilled to have you all on today's Leadercast.
Hello, Dorinda.
Hi,
Hi.
ladies. So I know this is going to be a very engaging conversation, so let's get to it. So according to research from the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City and American Express, a catalyst for Black women making the leap into entrepreneurship is often the outcome of poor treatment and the perception of being undervalued in the workplace. According to that research, Black women feel they can't get anywhere. They have feelings of being passed over for promotions, a sense of workplace fatigue, and feeling undervalued, especially when being asked to train people to be their boss who are less qualified. They also experience and face higher rates of unemployment and long term unemployment, and a much greater gender and racial pay gap, which has resulted in Black women starting businesses at a higher rate out of necessity and a need to survive.
Right.
And I know a lot of our viewers watching can relate to all of those insights. So, Kamika, I'm going to start with you because I know for sure you can relate to this. You started your business, you started your business out of necessity, right? And a need to survive. So,
Absolutely.
tell us about your journey into entrepreneurship, your work with the Boss Network and Boss on Campus, and why you're so passionate about supporting Black women in business.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dorinda. And, we are celebrating National Black Business Month this month, but of course, we're Black in business 365 days a year, right? And for me, when I launched the Boss Network back in 2009, it was actually during a recession. So you guys, I'm sure, remember the 2008, 2009 recession. And I was at that time employed by Chicago Public Schools as an administrator. And so, like most women, like you mentioned, I had a business on the side as I was in my career. So I was what they call a corporatepreneur, because, I had, I love my career choice as an educator, but I didn't always feel like I was valued in my career. And so for me, having my side business kind of gave me some joy. It gave me some motivation and inspiration while I was in my business. And of course, working with students and young people, that's, an innate motivation within itself. But when I got laid off in 2009, that was like an aha moment for me to say, maybe this is an opportunity for me to take my destiny into my own hands. I never want to be able to have someone to give me a pink slip and say, you're fired, right? And so I decided to go into business for myself. And so I launched an event series because my first company that I started was an event marketing company. And so I launched an event series called Boss because I saw that even on my journey as an entrepreneur trying to grow my event marketing company, there were so many other women just like me who were like, I want to go into business. I want to start, my own brand. I don't know where to begin. And so what started off as like what I call a selfish plight to kind of figure out this whole journey with entrepreneurship became one that, I decided to help other women along that journey as well. And so we launched the bossnetwork.org, which has become one of the top platforms for women of color in business not even a year later after the first event that I did here in Chicago. And so, 10 years later, it has been definitely a journey. And launching the business, we now reach over 200,000 women nationally within the organization. Our main focus is on helping Black women create opportunities, get resources, providing content to help them grow in business. And so I think we've been able to do a good job at that. That's the journey still continues.
Awesome. So tell us about your work with Boss on Campus.
So as an educator, of course, Boss on Campus was, my passion project. So I knew that early on that I wanted to still be able to work with young people. And because we live in a digital age, we have probably 200,000 social media followers, and a big percentage of those young women are between the ages of 18 and 24, probably even younger. So we knew we wanted to go back into the colleges and into the high schools and try to teach young women of color how to boss up early, right? Because these young women are ready. They are talented. They are leaders. They just need some guidance. And we know, although Black women are starting businesses at a faster rate than anyone, when it comes down to funding and mentorship, we still have a huge disparity amongst women of color. And so that's what I wanted to do with Boss on Campus, be able to teach and help young women early so that they can be ahead of the game when they get to my place.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So congratulations for all the things that you did. And let's move on. So Shirley Ann, social media has made keeping up with the Joneses a bigger problem more than ever, right? Consumption-driven thinking is a stumbling block for aspiring millionaires. And I'm talking about millionaires, right? Aspiring millionaires, because it's my goal to have $1 million business. I'm sure all of us are working there if we're not already there. And so to really create wealth, we know that, we have to live below our means. And that millionaire mindset requires a shift from spend and buy to save and invest. But as women in business, we also have to ensure that we have the fundamental, protection in place to prepare us for the unexpected. And you have an incredible story that makes this really actionable. So tell us about your journey into running a small business and the life-changing experience that really showed you the importance of your work and why you too are so passionate about helping others achieve financial prosperity.
So like Dorinda, she gives you a whole lot, right? She just throws a lot at you. So let me unpack all of that. But before I do so, let me first acknowledge you, Dorinda, because you have done the work in itself. You've transferred and made that shift from the corporate world into the entrepreneurial space. And just looking at you, you are glowing with joy and happiness, but more importantly, peace. So I congratulate you for making that shift.
Thank you.
Absolutely, sweetheart. And I thank you for connecting me to my sister friends that were here together. Dorinda has got such a leverage that she can call you on the 13th hour and say, Shirley Ann, I need you to be on the call. And done, it happens. So that's known as you and your significance, Dorinda. So I congratulate you. And truly, I want you to know that, though I sit here by myself, I am standing on the shoulders of my mother. And my mother was the one that started the company. And so it is an honor to share that my mother first showed me the world of entrepreneurship. So I grew up seeing how mommy handled the business, and my mother is one of those mothers that everywhere she went, her kids went with her. And you'll hear my accent weave in and out when I get passionate. My accent really comes out. But when I started back in the industry 28 years ago, my mother sat me down and said, Shirley Ann, before you can sell it to anybody, you must first own it. So that was the first thing that my mommy did for me. She gave me my first financial plan. And so I started out with $1 million worth of life insurance. I did say $1 million, not 50,000. I said $1 million. She made sure that I had disability insurance, because disability insurance covers you for loss of wages. She made sure I was putting money into my 401k, as much as I could afford at the time. She made sure I had a long-term care policy. She made sure I had the savings account, because she wanted me to have that buffer of 6 months worth of reserves. She made sure I had all these insurances, because here's what I want you to hear me say. It's not if something is going to happen, it's when. And when it does, will you be ready? So fast forward, Mommy and I are coming back from a meeting. And out of nowhere, a car hits us. And based on the force of that car, I'm thrown from the vehicle. So, you realize just one, that God has a purpose for your life. And in that moment, I realized that I was still awake. I was alive. But the impact of my car accident over here completely paralyzed my entire left side. So over the next year and a half, Dorinda, I had to learn how to walk and talk again. And so every time I get a chance to share my story, my testimony, I say, God, thank you for this moment. But to speak to what you asked me, Dorinda, the significance of having that financial foundation that mommy made sure I had is the reason why, one, the disability insurance policy gave me my income. So I was not able to work for a year and a half. So that disability insurance gave me my income. Disability insurance is only 60% of your salary. So that savings account that my mother made me set aside gave me the difference. The 60% of salary came from the disability policy, and the 40% came from my savings account. The long-term care policy that my mother made me buy allowed a nurse to come into my house and care for me. So I did not have to move back home. I stayed in my environment, and the nurse cared for me. So all these insurances, the protection, just like you said, Dorinda, are the reasons why I wasn't financially devastated. I was able to navigate. And then over the year and a half of me recovering, I could work on my mind, because your mindset is critical to recovering from any experience, negative, positive, to move through that moment. So you asked me the question of entrepreneurship. You asked me the question of protection. And I weave that all into one to say that seeing how my mother started the company some 28 years ago, and me growing into the business, is the reason why now when I see people, and just like you said, online, living big, and then you look in their bank account, Dorinda, and they ain't got nothing. And that's where so much of what I share with people is saying, live small and dream big. Live small and dream big, because I promise you, as an entrepreneurial person, that's the way you're really going to be able to succeed, is by really living lean, so that you can be big and have these big opportunities, but you can't be indulgent and expect your business to thrive, especially in the first 3, 4, 5 years. You've got to live lean so you can grow big in the year as the years go on. Did I lose you?
You're on mute.
There we go. There you are.
I'm trying to live as lean as I can, going from my corporate salary to my entrepreneurial salary and trying to get my business up and running. And so I can totally relate. And then I also have Shirley Ann as my financial advisor. So
Trusting me.
She reminds me to get it together.
But okay. I say that, right there, Dorinda, is that you trusted me for me to give you that cold water reality check, and you listened. Because all day long I can give advice, but we can all hear things, but then we don't execute. So thank you for trusting me to navigate you.
You're so welcome. Thank you. So Nicole, 80% of businesses fail before year 5, and less than 4% of Black women entrepreneurs make it to that $1 million mark. And in 2018, only 2% of venture capital investment dollars went to women-owned enterprises. And that number goes down to 0.2% when looking at women of color, and basically 0% for Black women. So you work with entrepreneurs, and, you help them to create multiple streams of income. And I'm really focused on the fact that Black women aren't getting this capital. So you work with entrepreneurs, you help them create multiple streams of income from what they already know in order to build an empire from that expertise. And so, what I'm really proud about you and proud to have you on for is that you've established a solid reputation for being uniquely gifted at drawing out the best in people and helping them to take that brilliance to the bank. So tell us about your entrepreneurial journey, the work that you do, and give us that perspective on the biggest barriers you see for women and their ability to scale into $1 million businesses.
So first, I have to acknowledge you like Shirley Ann did, because you took the big leap. And I'm going to tell you, I never set out to be an entrepreneur. So like a lot of you that are listening, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? So I really started in this journey, and surely you got me beat by year. I started 27 years ago, right? So I started in 1993 when I had the job I always wanted. It was the job I've dreamed of ever since I was a little girl. I was working in the entertainment industry, working on some of the hottest TV shows, bumping elbows with stars. I was doing all of that, but I felt like something was missing. And I'm sharing this with you because just like Dorinda did, I took a leap. So to make a long story short, I'm going to answer two questions. How did I start as an entrepreneur? And all about failing, because I got stories for both, and it's going to be quick, right? So in that moment, I realized I had volunteered with a good girlfriend at our church that night, working with young women, doing what we now call coaching. This was 93. There was no such thing as a coach. And so I took a leap and jumped out and did this thing. I didn't know if I could make money doing it. It definitely wasn't as glamorous as my Hollywood job, but for the first time in my life, my soul was alive. So now I'm doing it. Now, cut to 17 years later. Now it's 2010, and I have gotten my business to where I had dreamed of it being when I started. So by then, in 2010, I had 10 chapters in 10 states. So I had a youth nonprofit at the time, and then I had a for-profit coaching women to start businesses like I do now. So in my nonprofit, I had 10 chapters in 10 states, and we were growing by leaps and bounds. In my for-profit, I had a maxed out coaching client roster. I couldn't take another client. So I thought I'd write a book so I can give my principles to women and still raise money for my nonprofit. So when my first book came out, that's my fourth book. When my first book came out in 2010, I started getting invitations to speak all over the country. So every single weekend, I was speaking at a women's empowerment event, an entrepreneurial symposium. I was doing the thing I knew I was born to do, and I loved every minute of it. But get this, I was only making $13,000 a year. 13,000. So I was in the bucket of the people that were failing. That was me. I was failing miserably, right? And yes, I had a daytime job to pay for my nighttime calling. So I was what I call it a alongside her. I don't call it a side hustle because if you look up hustle in the dictionary, there's pimp and prostitute in that definition, and I am not pimping my gift. Okay. So with that said, I pray, Lord, if this is really what I'm supposed to do, if this is really my purpose, you better show me something. So to make an even longer story short, I hired a coach. And here's the number one problem women have. And I shared that whole long story because I had it too. We don't get clear on what our gift is. We don't get clear on our niche. And we don't create multiple streams of income from it. So the reason I was struggling, I told you I had a max out coaching client roster. I only have 5 clients. You can't live on 5 clients, right? Mind you, I had a daytime job. So those 5 clients weren't every week clients. So for me, I had to learn how to package myself in ways that I'm not present. So when you have a business and you are only working time per dollar, meaning that every coach or consultant, I'm already that I can make, right? And the one thing is that the really what
Oh, wait a minute, Nicole. Somebody's buzzing, and I don't want the viewers to miss.
So for most billionaires don't touch
I ask the ladies just to put their mics on mute, just so we make sure there's no interference. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. So the one thing that most billionaires don't realize, right, is that they have multiple streams of income. So for me, in that moment, I hired a coach. I began to really realize I had been overlooking my own gift. So literally within 2 days after that one coaching session, I went from not in 2 days, so in 6 months, right? So I created the program in 2 days and I started generating revenue. So within 6 months, I went from 13,000 to over 200,000 in my business. So what I know for sure is the biggest mistake women make is they don't niche out their business, and we hear niche all the time, right? And so people will say women are on niche. That's not niched out. That's still a huge market, right? So it's really getting clear on who you are the answer to, because you ain't everybody's answer, but you're somebody's answer, and then creating multiple streams of income from it.
Love it, love it, love it. So tell us, what did you say about that hustle again? Repeat that again.
Hustle in the dictionary. In the definition, it has pimp in it, and it has pimp, and I think it has prostitute in it too, right? And so I was like, oh, I can't call it a side hustle because I'm not pimping my gift, right? Mm-hmm. When you pimp your gift, here's what I mean. How many of you guys are doing what you do for free, or you give people a discount? Yeah, no barter, none of that, right? Because what you do, and I've done this, so I'll be honest, in my business, I bartered. And I feel like I work harder than the person I've bartered with. And then it doesn't feel good, right? Yeah. And so really, when you are hustling, or here's the other way you hustle. All money ain't good money, y'all. You take clients that you know you have no business servicing because you are probably, when you start a business, you are hustling instead of being clear on who you should be answering, right? And so I did that too. And I'd be serving people and I'd be like pulling teeth, like not wanting to be here, right? Well, it's because I had no business trying to coach that person. It was a hustle client. So hustle to me is not a good thing. You need to be in your flow.
So y'all hear that out there? The next time somebody calls and asks for a discount and doesn't want to pay you your value and your worth, you let them know I'm not pimping my gift, okay?
That's all right.
So no, right?
I like that, Nicole.
Yeah, I love it. So, and Kamika, do you want to weigh in on that? What do you
Well,
think?
you know what? Yeah, I mean, I think that especially for startups, when you're a lean startup, I think a lot of us go through that phase where we are, bartering in business. But like Nicole said, every client is not a good client. But I have been in situations where I've had, an opportunity to barter with my business, and it's, created great opportunities for me. So you have to know what's in it for you, what's the value of that partnership. And sometimes it's not a monetary partnership. Sometimes it might be a publicity partnership. It might get you the exposure that you need and put you in front of people that you would never have been in front of. And so for me, it's really about looking and creating value add for relationships and seeing, what works for me and my business, and then making a decision from there. And I tell women all the time, give yourself time to make decisions. You don't have to make decisions right away. You can be presented an opportunity and say, let me go back and think about it. Let me talk to my, my team, whether you got a team or not. The team of me, myself, and I, right? So give yourself a time to actually go and think about that thing, pray about it, and then come back with a decision, because you want to make sure that it's something that's going to put you in a position to move forward, whether that's financially, whether that's growth. Forward movement is the goal.
So I would add, Dorinda, that I think, on the onset, similar to what you just said there, Nicole and Kamika, is that you don't know what you don't know. That's true. So initially you are just taking on everybody because they have breath in their body. And so you're like, oh my goodness, this person wants to talk to me. And then, after you start to really understand where your sweet spot is, where your passion is, then you can start saying no and not feel guilty about saying no. So it's an evolving phase. 28 years ago, if you breathe, if you had $1, I was going to work with you. And then as time goes on, I realized, my passion is working with C-suite women and then helping them understand the value of money. Because if you understand your value, your money, your worth, then girl, look out. We're going to take the world. But initially, we took everybody.
Absolutely. So when I left corporate America, I was very public about it. I wrote a blog about it and everything. And women were hitting me up on LinkedIn, or women I knew who were saying, Dorinda, I want to leave, but I'm scared. Can you help me? Can you coach me out of this? And I would take calls and stuff. And my good friend Dee Marshall was like, Dorinda, people pay for that. So stop being so and really, get your life and send them, your outline of service. Yes. So it really worked out for me because I had no plan on being a coach. But to Nicole's point, that was an extra stream of income that I didn't even realize that I could make. All right. So Dr. Walton asked, do you have to hustle at the beginning?
Well, here's the difference to me. Hustle, to me, just that word doesn't feel good because it means you're always exhausted. You work extra hours, yes, right? But here's the thing, doing what you love, I never feel like I'm working. So I'm married, right? I have to physically come out of my office and remind myself that I'm married and I need to go spend time with my husband. Not because I love my husband, I enjoy my husband, but I love what I do. So I think it's all in context, right? Yeah. So are you going to work hours? Yes. Are you going to have to work hard? Yes. But again, are you going to have to go out and meet people and pull business in? Yes, you need to be seen. But when you're doing things that you love, 80% of it, well, ain't all of it, I ain't gonna lie to you, 80% of it you should love. There's always 20 that you wish you didn't have to do, and at some point you have somebody else to do. But right now you got to do it all. So I never.
And I think, so like my day starts at 4:00. I'm a morning person. I'm not a night owl. So, by 9:30 I'm fading, but 4:00 in the morning I'm wide awake. So, for me, it's getting to the office, knocking out some emails, making sure I exercise, and then getting to the office by about 6:30, 7:00, doing my day. And so from quarter to quarter, there are certain moments where I have to really be involved. But please know, after 28 years, my clients know by December 15th to January 14th, I'm out. You won't see me for 30 days, I'm gone. And so your business has certain rhythms. But that's after years of experience.
Right.
It was not that in the beginning. Please know I worked every single day and I was okay with that. But now you understand that your clients respect your time. You respect your time, and you need that reset moment that you can sort of regenerate into, keep on learning, keep on growing. So give yourself those moments that you step away from the business.
Awesome. Awesome. So Black businesses owned by women earned an average of $24,000 per firm versus $143,000 among all women-owned businesses. So I'm going to say that again. Black businesses owned by women earned an average of $24,000 per firm versus $143,000 among all women in 2018. And that gap is the greatest of any minority group. But we know that we can increase those earnings with the right strategy. So what are some of the essential tools and resources that an individual must have to succeed as an entrepreneur or small business owner? And Kamika, I'm going to start with you. We lost Kamika, so I'm going to start with Nicole.
So I think number one, you've got to have, I call it a blueprint. You've got to be clear. Shirley Ann said this a few minutes ago, your secret sauce. You got to take your secret sauce. And just like if I was making my mother's pound cake that I love, right? I'm going to call her and make sure I have her recipe, because if I get the one offline, it may not taste the same, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got to be clear on what your recipe is and how you use it to move people to a predictable result, right? Yeah. So I think those three things are must. You've got to have a blueprint. Well, first of all, you can be clear what your secret sauce is. I called it niche earlier. It's all the same thing, right? You've got to have a blueprint from that, a system, a methodology you use in it. And then you've got to have a result that you get people to, right? The other thing, real quick, I think is interesting is and I'm going to keep it all the way real. Can I keep it real since we all Black women?
Yeah.
Other issue that we have as Black women, I call it the Black church mentality, okay? And it may not be everybody, but I see this happen to a lot of my clients. I don't care if you have a PhD. I don't care if you have a corner office. I feel like that Black church mentality is in you. And I love Jesus, so you just know that I'm not talking against Jesus. But here's what happens, I think a lot of us, we think what we're doing is our ministry, or we want to give back in some kind of way. And so we're scared to ask for the sale. Because what we were doing in the beginning, you may have been doing for free, but now you want to turn your free into a fee. It's called a business. And so we never get away from that. Listen, I had this is my visual of who I had inside of me for years when I was in 13,000 land, right? I had an old Black preacher with a Jerry curl that's down in the basement of the church with the black towel. Y'all know what I'm talking about, that little black towel, and his whole shirt is wet because he has no air. That's who was inside of me. And so I think we have to shift our mindset around being paid for our brilliance. I think that's a lot of it as well, that other cultures don't have a problem with it. And so I think that's why I'm so passionate about teaching women, because I know the problem that I had for a really long time. And it came from, church. No fault to church, but I had that old Jerry curl preacher inside of me.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So Kamika, I know you dropped for a minute, but the question was, what tools and resources do entrepreneurs really need to be successful?
Yeah. So, there's 3 R's that I tell people that are so important in business. The first is research. You have to know your industry. You have to know what you're doing, because if you can't speak to what you're doing and you don't see the value and you don't know what people are out there getting paid for their services and how they're actually, positioning themselves in the marketplace, and how can you, pitch your business or your services to your clients. And so doing the research and kind of knowing what it is that you offer is major. The second is, relationships. A lot of my clients I've gotten from a coaching standpoint, from membership standpoint, I'll be honest, even though my background is in marketing and events, I really rarely do marketing when it comes to pitching for clients or looking for members. It's all referral, right? My members refer other members, my clients refer other clients. And so being able to have that residual income from referrals is the way to go for me, because it really helps me to really focus on what I'm doing and not having to spend a lot of time on, the ask, right? And then the second is, for me, is revenue. One of the things I really appreciate about Nicole and Shirley Ann is they are about the money. And I love that, because for a long time, I was afraid to ask for money. Dorinda, you were literally my first 6-figure investor within the Boss Network. And so you taught me a lot also about how to ask and position myself for what I have to offer. Black women, we spend $1.2 trillion, probably a little bit more than that, every single year on consumer products. There's no reason why we should not be getting funded, invested, supported at top level. But if we can't talk to that, if we can't talk about the numbers, we can't talk about who we serve and the value that we bring, then people will continue to kind of say, oh, well, I don't know. Oh, I don't understand. You got to make them understand. And so for me, doing research, having solid relationships, and actually looking at my revenue and how I create funding for my business and how I keep creating funding is for me really, really important. And just to give you guys a plug, today we actually launched a partnership with Groupon. And so if you go to their website, you'll see a national campaign featuring the Small Business Association, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Boss Network, right? So I position myself to be in places where people are making moves, because that's how you get ahead. And so I'm telling you, relationships, revenue, research, knowing what you have to offer, it's going to take you to the next level. And do you have to work hard? Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shirley, before you weigh in, I just want to make a point, because I was on the other end and I was the one who was receiving the sponsorship request. And I can tell you, if you're pitching to a corporation, you better know your analytics. You better know your demographics. You better know your reach. You better know, what the ROI is going to be for that business. Find out what those business objectives are before you pitch. Because a lot of times, and this is what got people denied all the time, people would send me their decks. Oh, I have this great thing. Well, it doesn't align with my company's objectives, so I can't sponsor it. So call them first and say, hey, what are your objectives? What are you focused on? And then if it aligns, or if you can create something that aligns, then you pitch, because you're going to have much better success. Shirley Ann.
So adding to everything that's already been said, I would add that, here's sometimes what people don't realize. Do you have a business plan? Do you have a business plan? And a business plan is something that you write out exactly what you want to do. And you make it very granular, because just like you said, Dorinda, that if you're trying to go to the corporate space and present something, you have to be very clear. So make sure your business plan is up to date. And also, too, 28 years, every single year, I look at my roadmap. That's what I call my business plan, to make sure that I'm going in the direction that I want to take my company. I'm also reevaluating me, to thine own self be true. So align yourself with somebody who you can really get that cold water perspective. For me, it's my mother, like how Dorinda, when you and I talk, it's me giving you that real talk. You've got to align yourself with somebody who can give you that real talk. And then the last part of all of this, I would say, is you've got to make sure you've got the right insurances. And that's really the liability piece of it, because, you're sitting there talking, or whatever your business is, you've got to make sure that you're protecting yourself. So just in case something goes wrong, there is the right insurance to protect you from a liability standpoint, because people are very quick to sue these days. And if you don't have the right coverages in place, then that passion, that dream, that business that you have can be completely wiped out based on a lawsuit, based on your misguidance. So all of that, and I think the cherry on the top to what everybody's saying is the mindset. I'm always making sure that my mind is clear and my mind is present with my passion. COVID-19 has been a shift for so many of us. But, I'm looking at the fact that COVID-19 has allowed me to really shift my life. I'm far more present. I'm far more in touch with people. I'm really enjoying this moment and realizing that in every situation that's happening, find the positive, find the glimmer of hope, so that you can make sure that your business is going to succeed versus fail. Find a way to shift. And that's really important.
That's true.
And I want to add to that, Shirley Ann, because you were the one who said to me when I made the transition, Dorinda, you speak, you create content, you need to have insurance to protect you against any lawsuits and things like that. And so I did research, because I'm like, what is she talking about? And
Shirley Ann, I don't know what you're talking about.
But sure enough, I talked to some people. They're like, yeah, people sued me because I said something on stage and they said it didn't work for them. So they tried to sue me. And I'm like, this is a thing. So for all of you out there, it is a thing. And thanks to Shirley Ann, I now have insurance so that I'm covered no matter where I speak. And I used to have live events. And so that my policy covered all of that. But it's something that you should look into. If you don't have it and you're creating content and you're speaking and doing all those things, you really should protect yourself. So thank you, Shirley Ann. We did have a question. So what strategies, and this is from Alicia Lambert, what strategies do you use to reach your target audience? What low-cost methods do you recommend for new entrepreneurs?
Well, I'll start there. I mean, I know for me, when I launched Boss in 2009, it was kind of like at the cusp of social media. You know, people were kind of just getting on Facebook and Twitter. And so, you know, as a new business owner, I took advantage of that opportunity to have a brand that was local here in Chicago and make it international by being on a digital platform. So, you know, I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to spend a lot of time on social media. You know, it's just too much, it's overwhelming, and it can be. And so that's why it's really important to kind of manage your time and make sure you're creating, programs and systems that can help you. Like, you know, there's programs like Hootsuite and other programs where you actually can schedule posts to reach your target audience and put your content out there so you're not, you know, physically online every single moment of the day. But for me, social media has been a huge benefit for my brand, not only from a validation standpoint, but also just from a reach standpoint.
And you are verified on Instagram.
Yes, we're actually one of the first communities for women of color to be verified. And as you know, they don't give that out to people. It's like a celebrity thing, but to be able to have that type of reach and that consistency, which I tell people is so important in business. You know, I know even some of us, we have multiple talents, right? So we have this business one year, we might have this business next year, but it really is about the consistency because you're competing with so many different people that's doing the same thing. People need to be able to identify you with your brand. And people know, you know, they think Kamika, boss lady. Yeah.
Awesome. So I know Nicole and Shirley Ann, you have different models, but Shirley Ann, you have a service-based business, right? And so do you, right? You have Nicole, you have like coaching, right? So how do you get those referrals? Do you spend a lot of time on social media? Is it more word of mouth?
So I'll jump in first, Nicole. So for me, you know, I am licensed from a financial perspective in about 30 of the 50 states. So my relationships are all going to be based on referrals. So I will have a client here in Chicago where I'm based, but then a client might move to New Jersey, from New Jersey to California. So I am fortunate where most of my clients after 28 years are 100% referrals. But they also know, you know, if we're going to have a conversation, we're going to have a conversation. So if they're not ready for a conversation, then usually they'll disappear, right, Nicole? If they don't want to hear the honest truth, they will start to disappear. But I am so blessed and so fortunate that, you know, the majority of my clients are based on referrals, and that continues to be a huge part of who I am, making sure I'm making an impact in my clients' lives. How about you, Nicole?
Well, I think for me, I love that you said, laughing up here. So I know for me, I call it having a disability plan. So if people don't see me and hear me, because let me be real, the coaching market is oversaturated. There are people that call themselves a coach that have no business even calling themselves a coach, okay? So because this market is oversaturated, I call it dating, okay? So people have to date you, right? So if my husband would have brought my ring to our first date, I would have thought the brother was crazy and I would have been running, right? But instead, you got to let people see value in you over time. So how does that look like? You've got to find out where your ideal client plays. Is it Facebook? Then you need to be on Facebook. Is it Instagram? You need to be on Instagram. I'll tell you, for me, my best place is being a speaker. So now I'm doing a lot of virtual events like this one, right? My second best is Facebook. My ideal client is not, if they're on Instagram, they're looking for their job. They're not looking to start their own business on Instagram because they don't want their boss to find out, right? But do I post on Instagram? Yes, because I can bring her over to Facebook, right? So really, and here's the other thing, because you're starting out, you've got to be clear. It's not just being on Facebook saying whatever, whenever, however. You've got to have strategy. What are you leading people to? How are they seeing the value that you bring? It's got to be really, really clear and really strategic.
And I'll say this, I invested in an SEO strategy for my website and paid advertising and through Google. And that was a game changer for me because I get 10,000 hits to my website a day. So when I offered my first mastermind and I was only taking 12 women, I was sold out in 2 days. And so, yeah, so just, you know, making sure that you invest in the right strategies. But I think SEO and advertising could be a game changer as well. Right. Let me get to the next question. So, and you know, I talked about this earlier. I get a lot of calls from women in corporate America who want to leave, but they're scared, to lose that prestige, that title, and that regular paycheck. So what's one piece of advice that you would give to women who are working that 9 to 5, who are afraid to take the leap into entrepreneurship, even though they're miserable in their current positions?
Wow.
Well, for me, I would say don't quit. You got to start it alongside. So what I typically do is help you, because first of all, you got to spend money to make money. So if you quit, how you gonna pay for your life and your food? You can't be in hustle, right? You can't be hungry. So really, what I love to do is teach you how to create an online program. So someone could be watching your program, going through your program, and you're not present. I call that making money while you sleep. Matter of fact, I have clients in Singapore. I've never been to Singapore. They found me online and within my online program. Or you got to have some kind of one-to-many model that you can do evening, weekends. So that as you build your business, so your income is probably here. You're 6 figures, right? When you start your business, you're going to be down here. It's not going to happen overnight. Whoever tells you it happens overnight is lying to you. Okay? It's time, right? So it takes a good 12 to 18 months for you to build your revenue to here, but then it needs to be predictable revenue. So you now have a plan and you see how it's coming in. And so the majority of that, when I'm working with corporate ladies, I call them my alongsiders. I want to make sure your revenue is consistent before I suggest that you quit.
Right. Yeah. And just to add to that, Nicole, I would say, especially for corporate women, don't be so attached to your title, because listen, when you work for someone else, that title can be ripped from you at any single moment. It is not about titles. It's about influence, right? So you can have people that are, in the same career field as you when it comes to entrepreneurship, and because of their influence, and you might have been doing it for years, you might have invested a lot more money, but the influence that they have from creating, content or actually, positioning themselves out there in the marketplace, they have a lot more opportunity than you have. So we really have to kind of get away from those titles and really understand it's about relationships, influence, and connecting with people. Because at the end of the day, people do business with people that they know, and they spend money with people that they like.
Ladies, you hit the nail on the head. Adding to everything that's already been said, you need to align yourself with somebody like me, because you've got to have that financial partner to help me navigate you through this walk. Because my job is to say to you, no, you're not ready. And until you are ready, don't jump. And that's really it. You've got to make sure that you have the right financial foundation in place, not 6 months worth of reserve, but about 12 months. Because ideally, you need to make sure that you've got the dollars to pay your personal expenses as well as the business expenses. You need to make sure that you are comfortable to make that leap. And then when you do, once you've got all those things that Nicole and Kamika have said, then you just jump. And when you jump, I promise you, at the end of the day, you will feel so much more invigorated, because I love the fact that I start my day, I create my energy, and I make sure that every time I'm interacting with somebody, I'm making sure that I'm making an impact in that person's life. But it was me doing that over time, and constantly be willing to stretch yourself outside of that comfort zone. That's how you do it. You gotta jump. After you made the proper foundation.
And I want to add to that, Shirley Ann, because I love when you said jump and taking that leap, but don't do it as your parachute. And I will say, because I have relationships with Shirley Ann and Nicole and Dorinda, these are women that are in my personal network. They are your parachute. These are the women that's going to help you to make sure when you make that leap that you're not going to, crash and burn, right? So absolutely get you a bad team like these ladies, and you're going to be good.
So I'm going to share my own personal journey, because people ask me all the time. So I was doing really well in my corporate position. There was an organizational change, and then my job no longer gave me passion because my role had changed. It no longer fueled my passion, right? And I had spiraled into a deep depression. Now, mind you, I had 20 years of service, and since day one, I invested in everything my company had to offer. Okay, so I have a nice cushion of savings over 20 years. But, I kept praying about it, because I'm like, I literally got to the point where I hated coming to work. And what I realized is that I was trying to keep the door open that God was trying to close, right? I had overstayed my welcome because God had a new opportunity for me. But I kept praying about it. I had a book that D. Marshall gave me called Fix It Jesus, which is a book of prayers for anything that could happen to professional women in corporate America. And so I kept praying on it. And one day I woke up and I heard God ask me, who are you and who do you work for?
Okay.
And that was it, baby. I was like, okay,
Listen.
I got it. Because I work for Jesus. And
That's
if
right.
the initiatives that I ran and strategized with my team, if we could create $100 million in revenue and premium for a company, I surely can do it for myself and Jesus. So that was my wake-up call. And so what I would tell women is, don't let your title define you, because I also had this feeling like, what if I lose that title? Will I lose, prestige? Well, what will people think? You got to let that go, because your title, Tamika and Shirley-Ann's point, it does not define you, right? It's the work that defines you. So I just wanted to share my story.
Come on, Dorinda, take us to church right now.
I just add a little something to that because that was so good. What God dropped in my spirit maybe about 2 years ago was that He's invested gifts and talents in all of us, right?
Yeah.
If you look at it like this, if God is our investor, what's His return on His investment? When that, I was like, woo, that slapped me in my face. I was like, yeah, okay, no more caring about what people say, no more caring about title, none of that. All that perception had to go. I started making sure that I was being in alignment with returning God's investment back to God.
Yes.
Right. And can I ask that? Because, I love me some Jesus, honey. One of the quotes that I love is that, if God birthed a vision in you, He would give you the tools to deliver. And that is literally how I live my life, because I know that He birthed this thing in me. And so He's going to show up. He's going to send the right people, the right opportunities, and everything that I need to make sure that this vision goes forward.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, I know that's right. So before I ask these last two questions, I want to remind everyone watching to tune in on August 20th. We'll be having a discussion with Black female founders who are killing the game. We'll have Kim Roxy, founder and CEO of Lamique Cosmetics, Cheryl Polote Williamson, founder and CEO of Williamson Media Group, and Diva Daughtry, president and CEO of Excellent Care. Let me just tell y'all, she has a great story. Actually, all three of them do, so you don't want to miss it. Also, if you're not on our mailing list, you'll miss the opportunity to get a free gift from Kamika. She's gifting our Lead 360 Her audience with a free ebook on 7 steps to grow your professional network. So be sure to register using the web address that's on the screen. And it's lead360win.org/lead360win.
We got to make sure Nicole has a free gift too, so they're going to get double for their trouble.
All right, so we'll have a free gift from Nicole and Kamika. Okay. Thank you, Nicole. So ladies, prior to COVID-19, highly rated businesses in Black majority neighborhoods earned $3.9 billion less in revenue. I'm going to say that again, $3.9 billion less in revenue prior to COVID than businesses outside of their neighborhoods. And we know that lack of capital is a key barrier for Black businesses to attain the level of success as their white peers. The heightened awareness of the Black Lives Matter movement after the killing of George Floyd has resulted in major brands writing checks. You see news stories all the time with these companies writing these big checks, right, to support initiatives that support economic growth and to support Black-owned businesses. But just to be clear, corporate philanthropy efforts designed to support wealth disparities have been in place for decades, right? But, will we see a significant change? Because we haven't seen it so far, right? Prior to this resurgence of Black Lives Matter, we haven't seen a significant change in narrowing that wealth gap. So do you believe it will be different this time? And are your clients feeling optimistic about the future? Shirley, I'm going to start with you.
So in every moment, you have to pause and think of yourself in, what is this situation here to teach me? And I promise you, when I say, like I said earlier, COVID-19 has been an opportunity for me to pause and look at just how crazy my life was going. I was traveling here, there, and everywhere. When you ask the question, Dorinda, what is going to be different? I think if we don't make a difference in ourselves, if we don't change, then this situation would have been of naught. So, as I'm talking to my clients, there's a conversation I have with them that I'm saying the pre-COVID conversation and the post-COVID conversation. What are you doing with your finances now? You were living indulgent before. Are you realizing that the extra stuff, the financial stuff, the toys, the shoes, the clothing, those are not needed as much anymore. So I'm saying to my clients that you have to be far more intentional today, looking at your spending habits before and looking at your spending habits today. And I think the bigger thing is that we don't know what employers are going to be doing in terms of, are you going to have a job? And so maybe now might be the time to make that leap. One of my clients based in Atlanta, was in the world of television. Now, we can't do there's not been much TV happening. So he made a shift from TV to now finding a way to spray his area so that he's got a business disinfecting the schools. So when the schools reopen, he's now been able to get himself in there. He's got this great contract, but he had to think about it. What does this economy need today? And that's where I always point my clients to say, where are we at? And in this moment, you have to make the shift to look at what you were doing before is not what you should be doing today, and make that impact so that you're looking at your finances, being very intentional with what you're spending. Save more, and I stress that, save more today, because we don't know how much longer. COVID should have been done in 6 months. We're going on a year, folks. And realistically, we're going to keep going. So I'm saying, look at where you are today, save more, and make sure that you're making that shift to manage within the space of COVID, because we don't know how much longer we're going to last at this rate of COVID.
Yeah, it's true.
That's a great point. And I want to just reiterate something you said. For entrepreneurs and anyone who's thinking about starting a business, one, you should be offering something that the market needs, that they may not know they need, or you should be offering something that's in demand. Because if you're not doing one of those two things, then you're just going to have a hobby. Trust me.
Irrelevant.
Think about that as you develop your business plan. Nicole, how about you?
So I think for me, I keep hearing people say, I can't wait till it goes back to normal. I can't wait. And here's the thing, it's not going back, right?
No.
So the one thing I've been telling my clients is stop living in supposed to, how it's supposed to be, and live in what is, right? Mm-hmm. And so the other thing I've been hearing a lot of my clients say is, well, are people going to buy right now? Now, you're not selling clothes, you're not selling shoes, right? If you're selling a service that they need right now, depending on what it is, the question is, do they need it now?
Yes.
Well, the answer is yes, and you've got to be willing to make the invitation. It's not your responsibility if they can afford it or not. I'm keeping it real. You're not pulling a credit card out of their purse and making them pay for it.
Right.
You make the invitation, they get to choose. I think because there's so much going on in the world, some people that own businesses are afraid to sell because they feel bad. Listen, you cannot afford to be worried about if people can afford it. That's their responsibility, not yours. So I think letting go of what it's supposed to be, but letting go of what's supposed to be, that's over. That's done.
Yes.
In what is, and learning how to pivot so that you can be prosperous right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And Kamika, I want to get back to, do you think that the corporate philanthropy is going to get into the hands of the small Black businesses?
This is a unique thing. We've had this conversation offline, Dorinda. What I see happening right now is a moment, right? We have to make it a movement. We have to make sure that the things that are being put out there from corporate companies, from brands that we've invested in for years, and they're making these commitments to the Black community, that we actually hold them accountable. Now, how can we hold them accountable? By honoring our dollar. We literally have power within the Black community with the money that we spend. And so we need to start spending more within the Black community with other Black businesses. We need to make sure that who we're supporting, brands that we're supporting, are actually doing what they said, right? Because anybody can put out a statement saying we're going to invest, $200 million into the Black community over the next 5 years. Well, when you email them, it's like, oh, we're not taking solicitations. Oh, we're not doing this right now. So it's really up to us to hold these companies accountable by making sure that we're spending our dollars and where people are appreciating it. I say invest in those that invest in you, right? And so I think that we have more power than we know. And at the end of the day, will they continue? Will they actually do what they said they're going to do? If we don't put any tasks in place or anything that's going to hold them accountable, I don't think so. I think it'll be a moment in time, something to kind of a PR move to kind of keep people quiet and get people off their backs. But we have to be the ones to step up and say, you know what, this is not okay. we're still struggling. And I want to go back to that question you talked about with the finances, right? And the moment in time that we're in right now. Yes, there is a shift happening. And some Black businesses have struggled, but there is also another shift happening where the wealth of Black people is on the rise, right? Because prior to COVID, we weren't able to get loans from the SBA. We weren't able to get loans for our businesses. We were kind of held back from a lot of that stuff. So I'm saying to our community, don't take that money and go and buy a Bentley, right? Take that money and go buy a 4-unit building, flip it, make some money, and reinvest it in something else. We got to be smart with our spending and how we do things. You got to make money. You need money to make money, right? But we got to make sure as we're getting these opportunities that we're using them for legacy, for future, profit, and not just for what's in front of us right now.
Exactly. And so what I want to say is we know a lot of the organizations who are getting this money, some of the civil rights organizations, some of the tech organizations, we just need to make sure that we're going on their websites, we're following how that money is being distributed, and making sure that we as a community are holding them accountable. Because my main concern and why I asked that question is, how are these corporations tracking the ROI? How are they knowing that they're making an economic impact? And how do they know that they're helping to close the wealth gap among our community? So I think it's very important. And I think we really should have a deeper dive on that conversation. So
I agree.
Can I add to that just real quick?
Yeah.
So I give Kamika a plug, because one of the things I love about the Boss Network is when there are new funding opportunities, she posts them. So ladies, if you own a business, you need to join the Boss Network. I'm not getting paid for this commercial. You make sure that the network knows about the resources that are available. So I just wanted to just say really quickly, I love that.
And there's so many, Nicole. I mean, not outside of just the loans, there's so many grants, money that you don't have to pay back, right? And it's always been in our community. We're the last to know, right? So as the Boss Network, I've always tried to be a resource for entrepreneurs so they can come to one place and get the information that they need to be successful. And that's what we need. We got to be willing to share information, share opportunities, and continue to push each other, because if we're not pushing each other forward, nobody else is.
Right. And that's the point right there, Kamika and Nicole, is that there needs to be a sisterhood, where we're always sort of, here's what I did and here's how I was able to get it done, and reach out to this person. That's how we build networks. That's how we keep on growing and prospering. Because if I go through something and it didn't go so well, my job is to tell my sister girlfriends, say, hey, don't do that. Here's what you should do. That's how we all move forward. But sometimes we're not always very transparent, because, again, we want to show ourselves to be all that. But the way we all grow and the way we all blossom is by being open and transparent with the information that we have, which is exactly what you've been doing here, Dorinda.
Thank you. So, I'm a big believer that the blessing that God has for me is mine. The blessing He has for you is yours. So I'm all about sharing, right?
Yeah.
Because even if we try to go on the same journey, it's not going to look the same.
No.
So with that, ladies, very quickly, tell us how people can reach you if they want to know more about your business or they want to follow you on social media. Nicole.
So my new favorite thing is Instagram. So I'm in Roberts Jones, because my name is too long. In Roberts Jones on Instagram. You can go to my website, NicoleRobertsJones.com, or Facebook. I'm NRJ Enterprises with Nicole Roberts Jones. Any of those three, or all three.
Awesome. Shirley Ann.
So my name on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram is Shirley Ann Roberts, and you can find me there. And, I would say to you, reach out to me and let's have a very transparent conversation. There is no judgment. It's an opportunity for you really to tell me what's going on with your finances, wherever you're located, and for me to walk you through from you moving from the corporate space into the entrepreneurial space, if that's your passion. I look forward to that conversation.
Thank you. Kamika.
Absolutely. So again, I just want to encourage women to, seek thebossnetwork.org as a resource, because we really are doing amazing things for entrepreneurs. And we have a network of amazing experts in entrepreneurship, also in career advancement, like the women that's on this call today. And, we're all over social media at thebossnetwork.org, at The Boss Network, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So yeah, follow us, engage, join us, and good luck to everybody.
Awesome. So ladies, thank you. I wish you much joy, much peace, and many blessings. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today. And hopefully everyone was blessed by our conversation. So you guys have a great night.
Mwah. Take care, ladies.
Dorinda, Nicole,
Bye-bye.
Jillian, you all take care.